Shore wines started in 1999. That was the time of our original planting. We planted 40 acres that year, and the following year another 40 acres. Initially we were contracting to BRL Hardy, Australia's largest wine company at that time. Around about 2006, Constellation from the US bought Hardy's, and after a while Constellation decided to sell out of all the premium areas. That's when Shore Wines went on their own and started our own label. The Murrumbateman area, which is part of the Canberra region, is renowned worldwide now for their cool climate wines, the quality of them. Shore Wines shows our wines internationally, London, Europe, San Francisco. The wines are much more refined against a lot of other areas. The Cabernets and Shiraz are quite elegant, not the big jammy style. Our Cabernet is our top red. Last year we won the best Cabernet Sauvignon in Australia at the London Wine Awards. That just demonstrates what a strong area this region is. Many other wineries around have similar success stories, and all in all it's just a great area to grow cool climate grapes. We took the plunge and built this new facility to provide a much better and wider experience for our customers. We have seated tastings with flights of wines, cheese board, sit on the lounge, glass of wine. We have private rooms, but the overall experience is part educational too. So we go through a range of wines, what we do, how we do it, and just help people to be a little bit more educated in the whole Canberra cool climate wine region. This facility is certainly providing a much better chance for us to meet and greet and talk with people. A lot more people are now signing up to our wine club, which was one of the aims of this new building. And also we're using to have a range of different events like Waterloo at Murrumbateman. I was approached by a group of reenactors to see if we'd be happy to host Waterloo at Murrumbateman. And as soon as I saw the video and saw what it was about, I jumped at the chance. Having an event like that here over a weekend not only helps us, it helps the restaurant, it helps our local hotel abode, it helps the local community and the rest of the wine industry. It's just one of the types of events that we want to put here on a regular basis to help and promote the Canberra wine region, and in particularly the Murrumbateman area.
Reenacting draws a lot of different people from different age groups. It truly is a family style of hobby. My children range from 6 to 14 are involved, and they're not on their own. Reenacting like we're doing for the Waterloo battle is actually more of a living history, we call it, rather than reenacting in the sense of a parade style where you dress up, you learn drill, you march. This is living history, so we're trying to actually recreate how people lived in that time period, and everyone from the young to one of the guys on the field will be in his 70s. So what you can expect to see is to be transported back to 1815 essentially when you walk through the gate. You'll see our period camp that the soldiers would have lived in when in encampments during that period. So they'll be cooking food, having campfires, and generally living life as a soldier in the 1815 period and Napoleonic period. From there though, we will make things a little bit more exciting. You'll get to see the colour and pageantry that is involved with Napoleonic battles. So we'll start off with the typical way a soldier would start the day with raising the flag. We will then show demonstrations from all the different arms of the army at that stage before culminating with the major battle to bring to life on the Saturday, Quatre Bras, and on Sunday, part of the Battle of Waterloo.
I actually come from New Zealand, in North Canterbury, in a place called Harwarden. I work with Wes with the 7 Light Horse and the Amuri mounted rifles, and we do interchanges between the two countries. I am about to be part of the French cavalry as part of the Waterloo. One of the things that I also run is the equine therapy for veterans and PTS victims and that in New Zealand. And working with the 7th Light Horse in Gundagai and in North Canterbury, We actually share resources and helping a lot of veterans with the equine therapy that we're just starting up. We're trying a new approach to wellbeing for veterans who come out of the armed services. Generally, for the last 1,000 years, that horses have been used for many facets in warfare. They never question, they're so loyal to their riders. They're actually coming back into use even now into the modern army, especially in locations where, for an example, up around the top lands of around through Darwin, the tips of Queensland and all those areas. Poland, Norway, all those areas, they are now starting to use horses because the environment that they have to work in, now they've got to learn to look after the environment, and actually horses are quite good for the environment.
It's taken about 6 months to bring all this together. We've got 5 different groups here with us, so it takes a lot of coordination between the groups, and then bringing in our horses and all the infrastructure, tents as well. So yeah, a lot of organisation goes into that, and a great deal of cooperation between the groups. A day like today doesn't happen without a lot of help from people. Firstly, Graham Shaw and Shaw's Winery for being our major sponsor. We couldn't have done any of this really without their help, and his staff in Karen and Tanya have put in a lot of work to bring it all together and assist me in many ways. Mark Coons and Troy Coons from the 73rd Regiment of Foot and the 73rd Regiment and all, they have really come to the party and helped with the black powder and bringing most of the gear that you see behind me together. And then we have obviously the 95th Rifles, the 21 EME have come up, as well as the guys from Sandingham's Artillery have come along.
What do you reckon, ladies and gentlemen?
And lastly, not least, my family and my guys for Gold Trails. My wife always lets me get away with this sort of stuff, God bless her. So she puts up with a lot, so I thank her a lot. And all the rest of my crew of Gold Trails who've supported and come in to get this happening.
Not fighting! Fear!
This weekend marks the 204th anniversary of the Battle of Waterloo, and the 16th of June, the Saturday, was the Battle of Quatre Bras. So today what we're trying to do is a small snapshot of what things would have been like if it was a picket or a vedette who come and clash against each other on the crossroads of Quatre Bras. So we've got, I think, 60 odd people here this weekend who are kitting up from around Australia and New Zealand to take part, and I think Queensland and Victoria and New South Wales and Victoria are represented, which is brilliant, and we're getting there slowly but surely. We've got troops from the 42nd Royal Highland Regiment, the 73rd Regiment of Foot, the 7th Dutch Militia, the 95th Rifles, all regiments who fought at the Battle of Quatre Bras. So what we're doing today is we're doing a series of demonstrations, infantry, artillery and cavalry, to try and help create an understanding for the audience of what the troops did and how they worked and performed. And that culminates at the end of the day at about 2 o'clock by putting on the small skirmish display where all those arms come together and put on, I suppose, a small snippet of history and how they worked and coordinated those troops.
Well, I'm one of the women of the regiment, the camp followers, so I've been doing some sourdough baking this morning, baking bread with a traditional yeast recipe. So it's not commercial yeast, it's the yeast you have to keep growing and feeding with flour, and so the bread's going to take about 6 hours to rise, which is much longer than it would take in the modern times. And so there were far more women than you might think in the Napoleonic camps, doing the support work, carrying water to the men, and really life in camp was a kind of pared down version of domestic life in the early 19th century. And I have with me one of my quilts that I'm making by hand. And this is probably a little bit too smart for the kind of quilts that would have been around in the early 19th century in camp life, which would have been pretty much put together with scraps of fabric. But maybe in an officer's tent you'd get a fancy quilt like this, and some of the ladies behind me are looking rather smart in their officers' wives and camp followers gear.